This is like my first foray into like theatre YouTube. Tell me why I'm kind of nervous. I hope this finds the right audience. If it does, please click subscribe because I'm going to be doing lots more theatre content in the new year. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new. My name is Amy. I am a content creator primarily about like fashion and lifestyle, living in London, etc. over on Instagram, and you have found my YouTube channel. 2022 has been probably my favourite year yet, and I think the kind of main reason for that is really like refinding my passions, one of which being travelling, but the other main one being theatre. I was super into theatre, musical theatre. It was my whole personality when I was a kid, and I just kind of lost my way with it a little bit, and then during the pandemic fell completely back in love. So I wanted to bring it over to my YouTube channel, and I have a whole series planned out for next year, which I'm so excited about. So if you like theatre content, make sure that you stick around. And this year have absolutely made it my mission to see as many shows as I can physically get my hands on. So I think the final count is 31, which is nuts. I can't believe I've seen that many shows, although some of them have been repeats. But what I wanted to do was talk about all of the shows that I've seen. We're going to do a tier ranking system. I'm going to talk through them chronologically and put them into tiers. I know that some of these might be a little bit controversial. Feel free to weigh in with your opinions down in the comments. Obviously, I'm not intending to offend anybody. I know that everybody who worked on these productions is incredibly hardworking and incredibly talented, and I could not do what you do. I get worried. I don't want to upset anyone. So let me open up my list. Where's it gone? So I'm going to be putting them into 5 different categories. The bottom tier is waste of time. These are the shows that I wish I hadn't seen. There aren't many of them, but there are a couple that honestly, that was like 2.5 hours of my life plus travel time that I could have had back, you know? The next tier up is, I'm glad I've seen it, but this is the tier where I'm like, yeah, I've seen it now, I probably don't need to watch it again. Tier 3, let's go again. I am the kind of person who, if I enjoy something like a film or a show, I want to see it multiple times so that I can kind of watch all the different elements of it and pick up on a different thing each time. And then the second tier is I would watch it every day. So these are for shows that I would watch every day if I could. I listen to them quite regularly. Like, I'm not saying that they're essential viewing for everybody, but I'm saying that they're essential viewing to me. And then my top tier, everyone has to see this. The first show that I saw this year, we started off pretty high. It was Frozen on the West End. I was really familiar with the musical soundtrack and I already knew that I loved it. So I was kind of nervous. You know, like when you love something and you worry that kind of the stage version is not going to match up to how it is in your head. I was feeling that a little bit, but it was incredible. I really enjoyed it. Would I watch it every day? Probably not. Honestly, I know that I sound like a little bit of a Scrooge when I say that there were so many kids in the auditorium who were being so noisy. Obviously they have every right to be there. It is ultimately like a show that is very kid friendly, but I kind of wish that they did adult only performances or something every now and again, just so that you could actually hear the actors or whatever. All of the performances were absolutely incredible. The set design and the way that they make the magic happen on stage was so impressive and really captivating. My friend who I went with said it was her favourite thing she'd ever seen. All of the cast were incredible, including the kids, and of course Samantha Box as Elsa. I've been lucky enough to see Samantha Box in many roles and she smashes every single one. So Frozen for me is going in Let's Go Again. If a friend called me right now, I don't know who would call me, if a friend messaged me right now and said, do you want to go to Frozen tonight? My answer would be, it's 8 o'clock, we've missed it, but I will come with you tomorrow. But it's probably not something that I would want to watch every single day. Next up, I saw Wicked. It's a classic. I hadn't actually seen it in a few years, but I have seen Wicked like maybe 8 times in total now. Of course, it was fantastic. I really think Wicked has everything that you could want from a West End musical. Interestingly, I'm split here between putting it in Let's Go Again or Everyone Has to See This, because I do feel like it is a show that if almost anybody said to me, I don't know what to see on the West End, I haven't seen any of them, what do you think? I would say Wicked is a fairly safe bet. I do think everyone has to see it, but at the same time, I wouldn't rank it up there for me personally. My tier system is flawed. I'm going to put it... I'm going to put it in Let's Go Again. I do love Wicked. I've messed up my tier system, but if you've not seen Wicked, I would really implore you to go and watch it. Not that I would be the deciding factor, everyone knows about Wicked. Next up, we have the first play of the year. I went to see The Book of Dust, also known as La Belle Sauvage. This was on at the Bridge Theatre. I'd never been to the Bridge Theatre before. It was absolutely beautiful in there. I would love to see more there next year if I can. The Book of Dust, if you don't know, is kind of a prequel to Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials series, and I'm a fairly casual fan of this series. I'm definitely not somebody who, you know, knows all of the lore and remembers everything about it, but I did enjoy the books when I was younger, and I've watched the first series of the TV show, and I fully intend to watch series 2 and 3. Side note, if you like that series, you should watch it along with the podcast, the like official BBC podcast. I loved doing that. It felt like I was talking to my friends about it. But anyway, I'm normally much more of a musicals girl than a plays girl myself, and a lot of the time plays kind of don't hold my attention in the same way. But The Book of Dust, the way that they used music within the story, it felt like a film. The soundtrack of it seemed so devised. I loved the way that they used sound and silence. The set design was simple but very effective. All of the performances were really believable, and there was some really lovely little comedic moments in there as well, but also a lot of heart in the play, and I just loved it. I thought it was absolutely great, and this one is going in. I'd watch it every day, which is really surprising from me because, as I said, I'm not really a plays girl, but honestly this was like watching magic on stage. I loved it, and I'm really sad that it closed very soon after I saw it, because I really would have loved to watch it again. Next up, my fourth show of the year. I swear I have to do this at least once every year. Of course, it's Les Mis. Les Mis was my #1 favourite musical for literal years. Sometimes when I'm having a really particularly bad day, nothing will fix it except watching Les Mis. So normally I get quite last minute tickets for it, but this time it was actually planned in advance because a few of my friends were kind of dipping their toes into the world of musical theatre, and I really wanted to share it with them because I just think it's essential viewing. Does that mean I have to put it in everyone has to see this? No, because I do think there are some people who wouldn't love it, and that's okay. I would recommend that everyone sees it, but you don't have to. It's okay. It's a recommendation, not an order. Some of these are orders, but I would absolutely watch it every day. So this is going in the second tier for me. Although I have to admit that my favourite part of going this time was, spoilers by the way, if you've never seen Les Mis. So you know the bit when Fantine is singing, "And tell Cosette I love her, and I'll see her when I wake." And then there is like a silence, a sad moment of contemplation. My friend, who had never seen Les Mis before, leaned over to me and went, "She's asleep, right?" And I went, "No, she's dead." And she just went, "Oh fuck." I just thought it was the best thing. I loved it. Thank you so much. The next show I saw, I'm a big fan of Heathers. As you can see, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but to me it is like the perfect combination of what's the word? Like sincerity and emotion and comedy. I think the songs are fantastic. There is nothing I love more than like a belty musical theatre ballad, and this one is packed full of them. JD may be problematic, but he is also the love of my life. Heathers is going straight into I would watch it every day. Next on my list is Cyrano, starring James McAvoy. I actually never would have chosen this one, but basically my uncle messaged me quite last minute because he had bought tickets and could no longer make the show, so he asked if I wanted them. Of course I said yes, because I will never turn down a trip to the theatre ever. I really had no idea what to expect, and I had literally just gotten off a flight, so I was exhausted. The whole cast, including James McAvoy of course, were absolutely fantastic. It's not my kind of typical cup of tea personally. So this is where my tier system is flawed again, because I was going to put it in glad I've seen it, but actually I would go again. I would like to go again when I was less tired and feel like I can really like soak it all in. But I think I would like to watch it like once or twice paying really close attention and then go, okay, cool, I've got it. So maybe that needs a separate tier. I don't know. I think with this one, because I haven't got anything in that tier yet, I'm gonna have to be a little bit brutal and put it in glad I've seen it. It's my own stupid fault that I was half asleep. As I said before, I'm much more of a musicals gal than a plays kind of gal, but I had a good time. Although there was one bit where he was talking for what felt like about 15 minutes in pitch black, and I was like, James McAvoy, you were trying to send me to sleep. Like, I was so exhausted already, and then I was sat in a dark room with like James McAvoy just sort of whispering. It was lovely, but I was very tired. Number 7 was my birthday trip. Now this one is interesting. So I went to see Bonnie and Clyde. I knew nothing. I didn't even know the story of Bonnie and Clyde. Obviously I've heard the names, I've heard like references to them in pop culture, but I really knew nothing about it. I had seen Jordan Luke Gage and also Frances Maley in Heathers at the Haymarket the previous year, and so when I found out that they were starring in Bonnie and Clyde, I knew that I had to go. I forced all my friends to come for my birthday. Also, I'm absolutely obsessed with Jeremy Jordan, and I knew that he sings on the original cast recording, so therefore I knew that it was something that I was likely to enjoy the style of, but I really did go in blind. After that first viewing, I had a really good time with it, but I definitely came out of it thinking, yeah, I'm glad I've seen that. I wouldn't rush back. So we're gonna put it in the 4th tier for now. For my 8th show of the year, these tickets were given to me as a birthday present. I went to see the touring production of the Addams Family. Obviously it's very topical with Wednesday coming out, etc. But this was actually the first time I'd ever seen anything relating to the Addams Family. I have never seen, is it a film originally? I'd never seen it. I didn't know any of the musical apart from a couple of songs that I'd kind of heard. I'd heard pulled in a lot of like showcases and stuff when I was younger, but other than that I really didn't know much. It was a really fun show to go into blind. Side note, it was at Norwich Theatre Royal where I used to work as an usher, so that was a bit of a weird like blast from the past, but I had a really good time with the production. I would love to see it again. I probably wouldn't watch it every day, although it's a real shame that the soundtrack isn't on Spotify, because I feel like if I could listen to it I would get really into it. But is there a cast recording? I don't think there is, and if there isn't, they should do one. I haven't researched that, by the way, so if there is one I probably sound like a complete idiot. But anyway, I am gonna put it in Let's Go Again because I did really enjoy it, but there are other things that I loved more. Number 9, again, I saw Heathers. For show number 10 of the year, I went to Regent's Park Open Air Theatre, which was so cool, and I saw Legally Blonde, which was incredible. I absolutely loved it. Legally Blonde is one of my all-time favourite musicals, and I'd never seen it actually performed live before. I thought the casting was fantastic. Whipped into Shape was even more of a spectacle in person than I expected it to be. Literally, how do they do that? Some of the friends that I went with didn't love the fact that it was an outdoor theatre, but I thought it was a nice fun twist. I would definitely go back to that theatre. I thought it was really lovely, and next time if I went back I would find it useful to know that they do have like a bar and like food and drink options available before you go in. So we arrived with not much time because we've been out for dinner, but I would definitely allow time to have a little snack there. I think they do like pizza and stuff. As for the production, I loved it. It was like exactly what was in my head was put on stage, but better. Again, it was one of those ones I was a bit worried about because I love the show so much. I was like, what if it doesn't live up to how it is in my brain? And even though I kind of was having flashbacks from when I directed a showcase that had Oh My God in it, and it was like the most stressful experience of my life, once Oh My God was out of the way, absolutely loved the show. My childhood best friend and housemate Megan, it's her favourite show, so I was really excited to watch it for the first time with her as well. We loved it. I think the energy of it is absolutely infectious. Obviously it's written by the same team as Heathers. I would watch this show every day. I'm gutted that the run was so short. I would love for them to bring it back for a more extended run soon. Maybe. I haven't even heard rumours of that. I think it's unlikely, but I would love it. Right, now this is where it gets interesting, because in that period of time where I saw Addams Family, Heathers and Legally Blonde, I started to get a little Bonnie and Clyde series of songs stuck in my head. So I started listening to the soundtrack again, and I just suddenly, something clicked into place and I went, oh my God, I love this. And then all I listened to was Bonnie and Clyde for about 3 weeks, and in that time I also saw it twice. So shows 11 and 12 are Bonnie and Clyde again. Moving Bonnie and Clyde to, I would watch it every day. Like, and I still would. I listen to this show most days, to be honest. I can like hear, they're gonna go at some point. Yeah, they are gonna go at some point. I now know everything there is to know about Bonnie and Clyde. Not just the show, but like the people. I've read everything, I've watched everything. I absorbed as much of it as I could, and I think I'm gonna kind of compile that and regurgitate it into a video for myself, talking about how the musical compares to the actual real life history of Bonnie and Clyde. So let me know if that's something that you would be interested in, because I think it's gonna take like weeks of my life to put together, but it's a passion project for me, so I'm definitely up for it if you guys are. I don't know, something fell into place. I love this show. I'm not saying everybody has to watch it. Some of my friends didn't love it anywhere near as much, but it's coming back in April, and I love Bonnie and Clyde, and I'm gonna be there. If you go and see Bonnie and Clyde when it comes back to the West End in April, just watch out, because I'll probably be there too. It doesn't matter which day. I'll be there somewhere. Show number 13, I went to see Frozen again. I took a few friends for their birthdays who had seen that I'd been earlier in the year and really wanted to see it. And a little bit controversial. I saw Grease. It was a friend's choice for her birthday. She then actually caught COVID and couldn't make it. A few of us still went, and I wish I hadn't. It just wasn't good. It was at the Dominion. I just feel like they didn't fill the stage very well. There were so many of them, but there was absolutely no levels really to what they were doing. The stage at the Dominion is huge. It's such a massive theatre. I didn't love any of it. I don't mean, you know, was it a casting issue? Maybe. They were all very talented, but I don't know, something about it didn't sit right. The choreography was great. I will leave it there. I'm gonna put it in waste of time. I wish I hadn't watched this, if I'm completely honest. I like Grease, you know, as much as the next person, but they're going. Yeah, this was not good. Okay. My 15th show of the year, we're almost at the halfway point, was Millennials. Millennials, if you don't know, was a kind of a song cycle sort of vibe. The seating area was covered in like ball pits and avocados. It was quite something. It was quite an experience. The performers were absolutely incredible. Originally we went to see it because our friend Hannah was in it, but actually they were all ridiculous, Hannah included. And I was really, really pleased that I got to see it. However, I will say that I feel like, I don't know whether it was like the sound equipment or something wasn't equipped for that style of show. A lot of the songs were really kind of ballady, which was great. They were good fun as well, a lot of them. So it was really up my street in terms of like the genre. But there was just something that didn't quite click for me. I do think we struggled to hear a lot of the lyrics a lot of the time, also because of the setup of the studio. We were quite uncomfortable, you know, we were sitting on the floor with no like backrest. It was just a bit of a strange setup. I'm glad I went. If it moved into a bigger theatre and, what I'm about to say sounds so bitchy, but if they moved into a bigger theatre and they thought more about what was going on stage and less about what would make a good Instagram photo, then I would probably watch it again. But in its current form, or in the form that I saw it in, I'm gonna put it in the 4th tier. As I said, I did enjoy it. I'm glad I've seen it. I wouldn't necessarily rush back. I would rush back to see every single one of the performers in something else. I didn't really understand where the Millennials theme came in. I felt like a lot of the songs could have kind of applied to Gen Z. They were dressed in more of a Gen Z style. I didn't feel like they were particularly millennial. The whole Millennials avocado branding, it felt a little bit like trying to latch onto something that was trendy rather than actually thinking about like what the show, I don't know, what ties the show together. But then again, maybe that theme was more integrated into the lyrics, but I couldn't hear them particularly well, not because of any diction problems, but literally just because I feel like the speakers weren't carrying the sound to where we were very well. Some of the time it just sounded like a lot of noise. Again, I really don't mean that to sound particularly scandalous, but it is what it is. Okay, show number 16 on my list is Mary Poppins at the Prince Edward Theatre. I'd seen Mary Poppins a good few years ago, the touring production of it, and I was excited to see it on the West End. It was great. Mary Poppins just makes me sob. I'm sad that it's closing, and if you haven't seen it, I really would recommend trying to squeeze it in before it shuts. I think it shuts like late January, I'm pretty sure. The kids were great. I feel like Jane and Michael can be really annoying sometimes, but these kids did a really good job. I was sobbing by the end of it. I don't know what it is about Mary Poppins that just makes me sob. So for that reason, I couldn't watch it every day, but I would definitely go again. For show number 17, we saw Sister Act at the Hammersmith Apollo. I don't know if it's called that anymore. The theatre's called something else. Well, it's not really a theatre, it's an arena, which actually is quite a relevant point because I just feel like the arena was not the right venue for this. We got tickets last minute and they were cheap, but that's because they were too far away from the stage. We couldn't see anything. And I think Sister Act is supposed to be, you know, there's some really nice comedy moments in there and some really heartfelt moments in there, and we kind of lost all of that because we couldn't see their faces, if I'm being completely honest. Beverly Knight obviously absolutely smashed it, as did the rest of the cast. I'm sure it was a great production, but I couldn't see it. And I have good eyesight, so God knows what my friends who don't have as good eyesight as me thought. For me personally, in the venue that it was in the seats that we were in, I suppose, it was a bit of a waste of time. If there was a pro shot of it, I would have enjoyed watching it from my sofa more than I would seeing it in person. In the circumstances that we saw it, I just feel like they wanted to fill a big venue. It kind of had a few like celebrity names in it and stuff, and I understand that they put these things on to make money, but I just feel like the venue wasn't appropriate. So those are my notes. For the Sister Act producers, choose a more appropriate venue next time. Number 18 was a bit rogue for me. I've seen more plays this year than I think I have since I was like doing my A-levels. We saw 222. This was a recommendation from my friend Jess. She had gone with a friend and said it was incredible. I'd never really been drawn to it before. I'm not great with horror stuff. I don't watch horror films, etc. But my cousin came down and I thought, you know what, that might be a good time. I know she likes horror films, so we went to see 222. Obviously I know that 222 has a bit of a revolving door for kind of random seeming celebrity actors, with Cheryl Cole being cast most recently, which I'm kind of obsessed with, to be honest. I know it's a bit controversial, but I'm sort of intrigued. Is that wrong? But we went when Tom Felton was in it. He was great. It was so funny because occasionally he'd say something and I'd be like, God, he reminds me of Malfoy, and then I'd be like, oh my God, he is Malfoy. It was jumpy and it really had you kind of thinking the whole time, which I love. I don't like horror where you just sort of have to accept everything. I like things that make you think about what the possible outcomes are, and this really did that. So I loved 222 so much more than I thought I was going to, and it is going in Let's Go Again. This tier is getting so full. To be honest, this is my own fault with my tier system, isn't it? Because I would go again to really most things. Even the things I've said I wouldn't, I would probably go again. If anyone asked me to see quite literally anything at the theatre, I will go. I take zero convincing. For my 19th theatre trip of the year, I went to see Treason, which was the concert version of, I think it's a new musical, on at the Theatre Royal Drury Lane. I really enjoyed it. I feel like because it was a concert version, it was super stripped back, and I really do think it could have done with a lot more staging. I'm not particularly familiar. I know the story of the gunpowder plot, which is what it's about. That would have been helpful to say before. But not kind of from the side that they are telling it. Carrie Hook Fletcher was in it, and I'd seen on her stories that she was saying that the main song that she sings is her favourite song that she's ever performed, I'm pretty sure she said. I don't want to misquote her, but so I was really excited about it. It's called The Inevitable. It's on Spotify, sung by Lucy Jones. It's a beautiful song, and a lot of the show is really beautiful. I think the way that they make it sound folky is quite unique within the space. I think they were trying to do like a British Hamilton, and I think it has potential, but I think it needs more work. I will say that when I came away from it, none of the songs were really stuck in my head, and that is quite rare for me, but I'd see it again, and I'm excited to see what the future has in store for this show. I really feel like with a little bit of refinement, it could be something really special. And then for show number 20, I went to see Mary Poppins again. I took my sister this time and her friend, and we all loved it. And I was in bits once again. For show number 21, I went to see Moulin Rouge, and I actually went with a couple of friends that I used to do like musical theatre with when I was younger. So it was really nice to go and watch something with them. I know this is going to shock a lot of people, because when I asked on my Instagram story what everybody's favourite movie musical was the other day, so many of the responses said Moulin Rouge. I had never seen Moulin Rouge. I think some friends started watching it at a sleepover when I was younger, but I fell asleep. I was that kid. I always fell asleep first at sleepovers, and I still am, out like a light. But so yeah, I'd never seen it. It didn't really appeal to me. I didn't really know what I was kind of walking into. The closest I knew was that it was similar, if not the same story as La Traviata, which is my favourite opera. Not that I'm a huge opera fan, but I've seen La Traviata a few times and I do really like it. So I had like a vague premise. I'm told that the musical uses a lot of different songs to the film, but I was quite surprised to find that they were pop songs. Honestly, I went in no context at all. I had a good time. I would watch it again. Would I? I feel like, you know what, because they are... a lot of the reason I watch things is for the songs, and because these are songs that already exist, I feel less strongly about this one. Although I do have some friends who I think would really enjoy it, so in reality I would watch it again to see it with them. But that aside, if I'm talking purely about my own experience, I think I'm gonna have to put it in tier 4. I'm glad I've seen it, and I do mean that. I am glad I've seen it. That's not meant to be any kind of like diss. The actual production of it was fantastic, but it's just not my favourite show, you know? The music really makes a show for me, and the music in it's great, but it's not original music. Am I being snobby? Maybe. Look, it's my tier ranking system, you can't judge me. For show number 22, I went to see Hamilton. I took my friend Maria for her birthday. She'd never seen it, but she's listened to the soundtrack many times. She was really excited to see it, and so was I, because I hadn't seen it since, you know, pre-pandemic, so a good few years. It was great. I think everyone should see Hamilton. Obviously, Hamilton was on Broadway first, and I think those audiences are super familiar with American history and the story of the founding fathers and all of that anyway. So I feel like they probably had an advantage. The first time I watched it, I was quite confused. Obviously, it's a massive spectacle. It's absolutely incredible, really impressive performances. So impressive that they can remember all those words. Although I say that, I can now remember all those words. But I was super confused. At one point, I thought Lafayette was a French spy that had come back as Thomas Jefferson, like in disguise. I don't know. It was a whole thing. I'd like made up a whole subplot in my head that just wasn't real, but I think that was my overactive imagination. Anyway, it's definitely not a Hamilton issue, it's definitely a me issue. I think everyone has to see this, so I'm gonna put it in my tier 1, but it's not actually my favourite show. I love it, and I do think everyone has to see it, but it's not my favourite show. But I would say if you haven't seen Hamilton before and you're planning to, I'd have a little read up of you know, the story first. I wouldn't consider it spoilers because it's history. For my 23rd show of the year, we went to New York, we went to Broadway, and of course we had to go and see a show. I made a beeline straight for Beetlejuice because I've heard such fantastic things about it. I made the same mistake again as I made for Cyrano. I was too tired. The jet lag really hit me. To be honest, I went in cold. I knew absolutely nothing. I've never seen the film. I hadn't listened to the soundtrack. I had heard a little bit of Say My Name on TikTok, I think. But other than that, really knew nothing, apart from the fact that it has such a cult following. I didn't love it. A lot of the humour was very American. I don't really know how else to put it, but I feel like the same jokes would need to be tweaked and like toned down a little bit for a British audience. So there were parts where the rest of the audience were like killing themselves laughing, and me and my friends were like, yeah, this is funny. I don't know. There is no disputing that the performances in this were fantastic. At the time, I felt like the music wasn't really hitting me the same way that I thought it was going to. But since then, again, the same thing happened as with Bonnie and Clyde. I got a couple of the songs stuck in my head, so I said, right, that's it, I'll listen to the soundtrack. Listened to the soundtrack and immediately was like, oh, I've judged this wrong. Like, I was too tired. And actually, thinking about it, maybe that's what happened the first time with Bonnie and Clyde, because when I first went to see Bonnie and Clyde, I was super wiped out because I'd had COVID a few weeks before, and I'd had a birthday picnic the day before that we carried a whole table across a park, and like a load of food and stuff. It doesn't sound that tiring. I was exhausted. So maybe that's my lesson. Maybe that's my main takeaway from 2022. Stop watching shows when you're too tired to watch shows. Make sure I get a good night's sleep the night before. Beetlejuice, I think it's closing on Broadway, but I hope that it comes to the UK. I would love the opportunity to see it again. And I don't know where to put this in my tier ranking, because my feelings when I came out of it were like, yeah, glad I've seen it, but now I think it would go in Let's Go Again. But I think I'm gonna have to stay true to what I thought at the time, also because I have too many in Let's Go Again, and put it in I'm glad I've seen it. But I feel like I'm betraying something inside me, because I truly don't believe that this show deserves to be in the 4th tier, but my experience of the show puts it in the 4th tier for me. My friends who came with me, who were in New York with me, they feel the same, which is really interesting. They weren't that keen, but I personally just think we were too tired for it. And also, I've kind of learned my lesson that I think when I go in to watch things, I personally maybe get more enjoyment out of them once I know them. But then also you rob yourself of the experience of watching it for the first time with fresh eyes and like seeing the twists and turns. I don't know. I think that's a debate. What do you think? Show number 24 was Matilda. It's a classic. I've seen Matilda too many times to count. It's an absolute crowd pleaser. We had the same issue with Matilda as we did with Frozen. There was a particularly noisy school group behind us. Again, obviously they have every right to be there, but it kind of ruined the performance. I don't know where, like, obviously I would never like be rude or anything, but it does ruin things. You go to watch the show, not to hear, maybe that was karma telling me to stop being mean about kids. I don't think I'd watch it every day, but I would definitely go again. It also makes me cry. Most shows make me cry. For show number 25, this was something quite different for me. We went to see Rambert's Peaky Blinders dance show at the Wembley Troubadour. These were press tickets. We went to like the press night, and it's not necessarily something that I would have chosen. That being said, I was really excited to go because when I worked at the theatre as an usher that I was talking about earlier, we had a lot of Rambert shows come through within the few years that I worked there, so it was really cool to be able to actually watch one for myself. I need to confess that I've never seen Peaky Blinders, so again, I feel like I wasn't getting the full experience here. So what I went into, I did go into completely cold. I knew nothing of the characters or anything like that. With that being said, I think they set it up really well. The way that they tell the story through movement with really, really minimal like speech was mesmerizing. They are so talented. How on earth does that come together? The costume was fantastic. I would absolutely love to like get a closer look at those. That being said, we were literally on the front row. There was a little bit of a mix up with our tickets. Basically the person I was supposed to find I couldn't find, so we ended up being given like panic tickets basically by the venue, and we were sat like on the front row to the far left, directly in front of like a panel. So I was really sort of turning fully this way to be able to see anything, kind of got everything really side on because we weren't far back enough. It was strange, like it was weird being at the theatre and looking forward and seeing a black panel, but that's definitely the venue's problem, not the production's problem, because I'm pretty sure those panels are still there and it's Newsies now. I thought at first that the band might be behind there or something, but no, I'm pretty sure it's a venue issue. I don't know if they normally seat people there or whether we were just put there because of the tickets issue. But if you are booking tickets for the Wembley Troubadour, I would watch out for that, because it kind of, I don't know, it did ruin the experience a little bit. That being said, the show was incredible. However, this is another issue with them being that close, was that basically I kind of got the ick a bit, I'll be honest, and this is why. We could hear their feet like squeaking around on stage. Obviously there's a lot of like spins and turns and like really impressive dancing, a lot of like leaps and stuff. You could hear the squeaks of their feet because we were too close, and I feel like that really distracted from the atmosphere and the kind of the like serious tense moments, because you could just sort of hear like squeaky feet. I don't know. I'm glad that I've seen it. I wouldn't necessarily go again, but again, like if I knew somebody who really wanted to go, I would absolutely go again. So I'm gonna put it in tier 4, not because I didn't think it was fantastic, I thought it was really incredible. This is more of a personal preference thing again, rather than the production itself. The production itself was seamless. For show number 26, we went to see Emojiland at the Garrick Theatre. This was another like concert production. I know that this is quite a cult favourite over in America, but I had never heard of it and didn't know anything about it. Some of the songs were incredible, the performances were great, but because it was a concert version, I feel like it lost a lot of its energy. Also, they had this really weird issue where they had the emojis printed onto their t-shirts. Normally I think they wear costumes when it's like a full production, but because it was a concert version they wore it on their t-shirts. But also because it was a concert version, they were holding folders. Can you see the issue here? So basically they were holding folders with the sheet music in front of the t-shirts which had the emojis on, so a lot of the time you couldn't tell which emoji was which kind of just felt like something that really could have been avoided. Like put it on their head like a sim thing or something, you know, or I don't know what the other solution to that is, or just put the music on a stand, I don't know. But I was distracted a lot of the time trying to remember who was who, basically. It was a lot of fun. It lacks a lot of the kind of emotional depth that you get from a lot of other shows, but I guess that is what you would expect from Emojiland the musical. I wouldn't watch it every day, but I would go and see it again, especially if they bring it back kind of in a more full-scale production. I would be quite intrigued to watch that. It was good fun in its concert version format, but yeah, I'm gonna put it in Let's Go Again, because if it comes back with like, you know, costumes and sets and stuff, I will absolutely go again. For show number 27, we went to see Rob Madge's one-person show, My Son's a Queer, But What Can You Do? Again, it was at the Garrick Theatre. We saw the posters for it while we were there for Emojiland and literally booked tickets to go later that week because I didn't want to miss it before it left. I've been meaning to catch this show for ages. It was fantastic. If you don't know about this show, I don't know if you will have seen on TikTok when the videos went viral of Rob Madge when they were a child putting on Disney parades in their living room or in their grandma's living room. I can't remember. But the TikToks were fantastic and the show is an extension of that. It was incredible. It was very different to any show that I have seen so far this year. I think it did really well at the Edinburgh Fringe and I didn't really know what to expect, but we all loved it. It is an autobiographical one-person show about Rob's upbringing and their experiences growing up in the LGBTQ+ community. It's got songs in it, it's got humour, it also made me cry. It's incredible. I really would say that this is something that everybody has to watch. No description that I can give will do it justice. It was fantastic. So this is going straight up into tier 1. Everybody has to see this. I don't think it has a current run, but I know that it pops up here and there all over the place. So if you get the opportunity, definitely go. It had been on my bucket list for ages and it lived up to all of my expectations. It was incredible. For show number 28, we had another classic, the longest running show, I think, in the world, celebrating its 70th anniversary. I'm pretty sure it was the 70th. Was The Mousetrap, an Agatha Christie whodunit kind of play. God, was that my 4th play of the year? Wow. I saw more plays this year than I thought. The Mousetrap, I have seen it twice now. I really enjoyed it. I think it's an absolute classic. If you love a murder mystery and a whodunit, it is definitely worth a trip. It's so brilliantly done, and again, just like with 222, when I said I love things that kind of really get you thinking about what the possible outcome would be, and this one has your little cogs turning the whole time. So I had a really good time with it. That being said, I've seen it twice now and I feel like that's enough times. I saw it once for the twists and turns, and again knowing the ending to watch the whole thing through, and I really thoroughly enjoyed both times, but I don't think I need to watch it a third. I think I'm done now. So I'm gonna put this in the glad I've seen it tier, again with the caveat that if any of my friends want to see it, I will come with you. I went into show number 29 feeling very skeptical. I did not know what to expect from this, but my friends wanted to see Elf the musical and never wanted to turn down a trip to the theatre. I of course said that I would go with them, and you know what? I'm really glad I did. This was at the Dominion, which as we know was a bit of a cursed venue earlier in the year, and I just thought, I don't know, I don't have a good feeling about this, but I will hold my hands up and I will say that I was wrong. It was so much fun. I was expecting panto vibes, and I'm not a fan of a panto. As I said, I worked at a theatre for a few years. If I never see another panto again, it's too soon. They are good fun, but I've seen enough pantos to last me a lifetime. The very beginning, like opening scene before it actually kind of starts up, gave me panto vibes, and immediately I was thinking, oh dear God, we've made a mistake. The tickets were so expensive. Do I fix that? You know what, we've only got 2 more to go, let's just power through. It was so much fun, and actually I can't remember the name of the guy who played Elf, Elf, as if that is his name, that played Buddy the Elf. I can't remember his name. I will put a picture up on screen. This guy, I'm putting my bets in now that if Beetlejuice comes to the UK, this guy needs to be first in line to play Beetlejuice. The roles are very different, but I don't know. I think it would work. Suddenly I'm beginning a career as a casting director. All of my friends had a really great time. A healthy dose of Christmas magic never hurt anyone. Elf the musical was fantastic. Go and see it next Christmas. Show number 30 was my return to Wicked once more, so that's the second time this year. I'm gonna leave it where it is in terms of the tier list, but we loved it. Number 31, let's just say we saved the best till last. Newsies at the Wembley Troubadour. Now, I saw Newsies 8 years ago on Broadway and immediately fell in love. It has been my #1 favourite musical ever since. Nothing has ever knocked it off the top spot, and I've been so gutted that I haven't been able to see it since it closed quite soon after I saw it. Genuinely, I think had it still been on in New York in the years that followed, I would have returned just to see it, but I didn't get the opportunity. There is a pro shot on Disney Plus. Personally, I much prefer the musical version of the pro shot to the original film from the 90s. It's a Disney musical, for those of you who don't know, about the Children's Crusade to do with workers' rights and things like that, but specifically focusing on the newspaper boys in the early 1900s in New York. Alan Menken is a musical genius. I worship at the altar of that man. I know nothing about his private life, and if there is anything questionable in there, I take it back, but based on his musical works alone, what an incredible man. Here is the programme from the first time I went to see Newsies. I was nervous about this production, and I also had tickets booked for the 5th of January. That's my first show of the year. But then, right at the last minute, I got an email from the PR company asking if I wanted to go and review it on Instagram, and I actually cried. Before I even got there, literally just from reading the email, before they'd even confirmed the tickets, I was crying. I love this show. It's one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. Everyone has to see this. This is going straight into tier 1. The message behind the show is fantastic. The historical accuracy is maybe something that I will talk about in the future, but the dance in this show, and I know earlier I said that I'm not a dance gal. I am, however, a harmonies gal, and the harmonies, oh Jesus Christ, the goosebumps on my body. The dance is incredible. The kind of acrobatics, the gymnastics, it is mind-blowing. I'm gonna see it so many more times during its run. This is another one where it's like, if you go and see Newsies at any given time, if you look hard enough, I'm probably there somewhere. Like, it's great. I genuinely think everybody has to see this. I think it's got a really fantastic mixture of like history and a fantastic message, and the performances are amazing, the singing is amazing, the dancing is amazing, the choreography is like nothing I've ever seen before in my life. I was worried about how it was going to compare to the Broadway production. I genuinely think it might be better. I think the principal performers of the Broadway production were stronger, but they had been doing it for a really long time by the time I got in, so maybe that's something that they will grow into. It's already been extended up until April. If you take one thing from this video, please make sure you go and watch Newsies. And now I can breathe. We are done. Those are the 31 what the hell shows that I saw in 2022. Shall I try and beat that number in 2023? I'm gonna say yes. So far, I have 2 Newsies and a Les Mis trip booked. But I also really want to see Come From Away Before It Closes on the 7th of January, so that's gonna have to be an early one. I want to see 6, which I have never seen. I want to see The Book of Mormon again. I watched that a few years ago with my dad, which was an interesting choice. But I haven't seen it since, and I do really want to watch it. What else do I want to watch? I'm gonna watch Bonnie and Clyde many times. And I'm sure lots of other stuff too, but please leave your suggestions in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, this video has been so long. Like I said, I really intend on doing a lot more theatre content in the new year, so do subscribe to my channel if you would like to see more of that. Please encourage me to do it, because I'm kind of nervous that the audience isn't really there for it. And you know, it's that imposter syndrome thing of who wants to listen to me talk about theatre? You could listen to literally anyone else, and that does still stand, but also I know that I just like listening to people talk about it, and I feel like I'm having a chat with my friends, and that's what I want this to feel like. So please tell me that you want to see more of it. If you do, either leave it as a comment, DM me on Instagram, however you want to get that message to me. I really appreciate it. That's 2022 over and out.